Just remember that the exam evolving and keep changing. So this is what I took myself last summer. I need you to do the assessment test. All right, try it out, go over it, and see how much you could do. All right, and then by the end of the course, you're gonna go back and try it again. Okay, you're gonna try it again, and I'm sure that you will do very well. All right. So we will be doing three things. We're gonna do the textbook, we're gonna do the modules, and then we will be doing uh, um, the labs. All right, so let's together try the first five questions together. True or false? Okay, the developer supported plan provides access to support application programming interface API. Is that true or false?
True.
Actually, it's false. All right, so there's three levels of support. One of them the support, and for the application programming interfaces, it's the business level. So you go to the next question. True or false? AWS is responsible for managing the network configuration of your EC2 instances.
False.
False. You are responsible. Remember that we designed the network ourselves. Third question, I don't think you know, but it's good, to try it out. Which of the following services is most useful for decoupling the components of a monolithic application? Monolithic application, that means large application. So if you need to decouple them, application feed to the application, what are you gonna use? You're gonna use simple notification surface, or key management surface, or simple queue surface, or a Glacier.
D. Glacier.
Glacier is a storage, is a backup solution. SNS is a notification, like sending a text and a message. KMS for the key, then it's SQS, and so on and so forth. Try it, okay? Try it. If you don't know, okay, by the end of the course, you know. So that's like an assessment, okay? So there's about, I think, like 39, 40 questions, and these the answers are here. You can take a look at the answers, and you try again. I mean, you might not. I mean, you know how much you know. All right, and we'll give you like a guide as you go. All right. Also, we have covered the core AWS services. All right. Uh, so we started talking about cloud computing and virtualization. Um, so um, cloud computing and virtualization. So what does it? Uh, what is a virtual machine host? The virtual machine host, which you don't have. You have it in the data center, right? It will have a physical server. Then on top of it, you have the compute resources, storage resources, and then you have the hypervisor, which you don't run; they run it for you. Then you have the EC2s, the virtual machines, right? Um, the old Before the cloud computing, we used to have a private cloud. They are all called a cloud, right? So if you have like VMware ACX, that's how it is. It's a hypervisor running on top of the host where you have multiple virtual machine, and that's what is virtualization. So it's a good idea if you are not familiar with virtualization to read a little bit about it. All right, and as much as you could. Then after that, from the private clouds, we came to the cloud computing architecture. All right, okay, and definitely this is like a shared uh, data centers where you could have your devices. So cloud computing is for optimization. All right. So you can you could automatically add resources. All right, as you go. There's a three features for cloud computing or clouds over or public clouds in general. Number one is scalability. Okay, so you can automatically add resources, right? So as you see in here, this is copies of a machine image AMI are added to a new VMs virtual machines as they are launched. So you have the machine image. You could create multiple virtual machines from one the machine image. In our language, what we call it AMI, right? Amazon Machine Image, right? Then as you so this one is scalability. All right, the scalability is the first and these words are very important words to understand what they mean. Then after that you have elasticity. Okay, and that's why you call it EC2, right? Elastic. And the principle of elasticity covers some of the same ground as scalability, both address managing changing demands. Demand changing, then we have to be elastic, we have to be flexible. So while the images used in a scalable environment let you ramp up capacity to meet rising demand, an elastic infrastructure will automatically reduce capacity when demand drops. So you need to increase when demand increases, but you should be able to increase and decrease. Why you have to pay for five virtual machines if you need only three? And you could do that in a fraction of the second. And the third thing is the cost management, and that's I think clear cost management. Um, and in here, there's two terms usually. There is capex, which is capital expenditure, and there is opex, right? Operation expenditure. All right. All right. So there's cost for the operation, which is opex, and cost for the capital, capex. And this is always you hear about them. So besides the ability to control expenses by closely managing the resources you use, cloud computing transition your IT spending, and this is a key from capital expenditure framework into closer to operational. So you pay for the operations more than you paying for the capital. You don't have to have major servers, millions of dollars for the servers in your account, in your promises, and then 5 years replace them and all of that. All right. So I'm sure that you looked at the TCO, total cost ownership, right? All right. And these terms you hear them everywhere when you go to IT management. All right. So total cost ownership, and you could you play with it. They have like a application for it in this link in here. Okay, so try to play with it. Total cost operating, total cost of ownership calculator, and this will help you how much how you could compare apple to apple if you have these resources on your premise and have it in the cloud, how much you will save. Remember, there is a major goal for moving towards the cloud is saving money. Okay, so these are things that you need to watch out. All right, when you take a look at the AWS cloud, all right, there is services, and we have seen so many services, right? These are the services in here. These all the services. So the most common ones are the compute, all right, services like EC2s, the networking. um, to how to connect storage, database, and database that includes relational database and NoSQL database as well. Application management like monitoring, auditing, and configuring AWS account services and running resources. Then you have security and identity services, and there is application integration. All right. So these are like categories mainly you needed for this certification. There's, as I told you, there's hundreds of services. Architect certification will not ask you about business application, will not ask you about Internet of Things. We'll ask you a little bit about security, identity, and compliance. It will ask you a little bit about the VPCs and the networking and content delivery. So you need to know what you have to know for the exam. Just go through that. Core AWS services, we already covered that. So for the compute, we took already at EC2. Lambda is a serverless, and you'll know it soon. Auto scaling. Auto scaling is how to create multiple copies of the same EC2 as needed. So if you have a web server and you're running the web server in 5 servers, and there is a higher demand, so you could add 5 more, 2 more, 3 more, as much as you want, depends on the demand. And when the demand goes down, you could also reduce that. Then elastic load balance, how you load balance among these devices, right? Then elastic beanstalk, this you load the application and AWS will configure the whole thing for you. Will configure the database, back-end servers, the front-end servers, and everything. So it's just you load the code, and AWS will do everything for you. So that's a great service. You don't have to do things by your own from scratch. Okay, Beanstalk is a managed service. And remember that when we say managed service, we heard about many times we heard the managed service. So managed service managed by who? By AWS. All right, by AWS. That abstracts the provisioning of AWS compute and networking infrastructure. AWS will do all of that. You are required to do nothing more than push your application code. You have a code, you push it, everything else done by AWS. All right, and Beanstalk automatically launches and manages all the necessary services in the background for you. Wonderful tool. All right. Then we'll go to the networking. Maybe next week we'll talk more details about the virtual private cloud VPC, but we have seen that, right? So remember that we when we create our when we go to the EC2 or when we go to the I'm sorry, we'll go to the VPC. Let's go services. Okay, you have the VPC. So usually, yeah, in any region, you will have one VPC created for you. Inside the VPC, you'll create the subnets. All right, inside the subnets, you'll create the EC2s. All right. You could have up to five VPCs in your account in your region per region. All right, and we'll learn how to create. So far, we were working with uh, with with um, with default VPC. So in here in Ohio, as you see in Ohio, for example, if I go to EC2, let me go to Services, EC2, and if I go down a little bit here, Launch Instance, I could easily launch instance, and then I have to select the Amazon machine interface or AMI. Remember that we always try to use the free tier only. Then we select Linux like we did before, and then you select the CPU. Always look for the free tier eligible. This is a free tier eligible. Configure instance details. Then how many instances you need? One, for example. All right, when you go down in here, the network. So remember the first question in the test, who configures your network, you or AWS? It's you, right? So in here, the network, the ACT has to have a network. So in here, I have only one VPC, which is the default VPC, right? I always could create a new VPC. I could create a new VPC, and then I put all my EC2s inside that VPC. All right, I always could do that. But there's configurations. You have to configure the IP range and many things. We'll learn about that later. Okay, let's not worry about this right now. All right, so if you need to create a new VPC, you could create it in here. Okay, so I don't want to do that at all right now. I need to go back. I don't know how to go back. Maybe in here, yes. So this is, let me close this, close this. So in here, let me use the default VPC. Inside the VPC, I have to have a subnet. Last time, if you remember, I mean, usually it comes with the 3 public subnets. Each subnet will land on different availability zone. You see in here 3. And last time we created these private subnets. My private subnet 1, my private subnet 2. So you could create a private subnet and you could create public subnets. All right. So remember, for the private subnets, there is no access to the internet. There is no access to the internet. For public subnet, you always could access the internet. So if you choose one of the public subnets, that's fine. Use subnet settings enable, so auto assign public IP. Remember, this is not elastic IP. So when you put a machine or EC2 in a public subnet, how many IPs is gonna get? 2. A private IP and a public IP. Okay, what is a private IP? Private IP to communicate within AWS. You never. So you don't go to the internet to communicate with the EC2. But public IP address to connect with the internet. The problem is when you shut down the machine, you're gonna get a new public IP. To solve this problem, what we have to do to get Elastic IP, which is a public IP but is kind of permanent. All right, so the point in here, I'm trying to show you that, and then we continue till the end, right? So virtual private cloud, all right, then direct connect, and this is a surface which allow you to connect in a premises, all right, for charge. Maybe you will not be able to try it in this class, but by purchasing a fast and secure network connections to AWS through a third-party provider, you can use Direct Connect. Okay, you could use the Direct Connect to establish an enhanced direct tunnel between your local data center or office and your AWS-based VPCs. Just remember that everybody started from where? From on-premise cloud, a private cloud. Now we have a private cloud. Eventually, when you need to upgrade or we need to get a new servers, what you try to go to the public cloud. But usually you don't go right away to the public cloud. You'll have some of your servers locally and some of them are on the cloud. All right. And that will stay for a few years, right? Maybe forever. Many companies will not bring everything to the cloud for security reasons, for speed reasons, right? So if you have like part of your network on the cloud and part local, what you do, you need to connect them, right? So there is 2 ways to connect them: over the internet, which is slow, all right, or you could have expensive connection called direct connection, and if you are a company, you will be able, or you will afford it. You agree? Then Route 53, maybe we'll take a look at it also, is like DNS server, right? So you'll be able to purchase a domain. I have a domain myself, ect-lab.com. All right, ect-lab.com. I have like a domain for me, right? You could create a domain for yourself, and you could, configure your network with a domain, right? You could like, instead of having so let me continue with this one. Let's in here add a storage. All right, these are the storage in here. Added the storage. And let's continue. Let's continue in here. Now in here, let's use a security group. We spoke about the security group last time, so let's use existing. And let me use my first security group that we created together. Review and launch. All right, and then I have to pick a key pair. My first key pair, that's fine. Launch. I'm launching view instances. Now I'm launching an instance in here, right? There is an instance must be launching right now. It's pending in here, right? Okay, so let's take a look at the other one in here. I mean, while this launching in here, if you go down in the network, in the networking in here, it will have a private IP address. Oh, these are private. Let me take a look at the public in here. This is the public. Oh, let me take a look at the new one we just created in here. Let's call it today's EC2. Whatever, call it anything EC2. All right, save in here. So when you take a look at this, look in here, what does it have? It has a public IP address and it has a public DNS, okay, which is like a very long. But if this is a server that serves my lab, ect-lab.com, so I will be able to assign a DNS name for this computer. So it will become, for example, abusnet.com. It will be ect-lab.com. It will be cnn.com. It will be something that a name that I purchased and I assign it to that. So that's the function of Route 53. Okay, anybody knows where's the digit 53 came from? Any idea, David?
That's the port.
It's a port for DNS to use 53. Yeah. Then after that, the CDN delivery network, and this is very, very important feature of AWS, the cloud front. Okay. Okay. So now, if like I'm creating a web server in West Virginia, and all my customers in India, do you think the access will be fast or slow?
So
Will be slow. So so that's why we use delivery network or CDN, content delivery network, as you see it in here. All right, where we create a cache all over the world that will cache the content. So there is a cache nearby India. So the first time the data downloaded will be cached there, and whoever try to access the data will access the data from the cache servers there. Okay, and you know the word when the word cache, what it means, right? You are computer science, computer engineering. If you don't, just write a note. I'll explain it. So CloudFront is Amazon's distributed global. It's a global content delivery network, CDN. CDN. When a properly configured, a CloudFront distribution can store cached versions of your size content at edge locations. We call them edge locations. Okay, edge locations around the world, so they can be delivered to customers on a request with the greatest efficiency and lowest latency. So that's a great service. One of the labs that you'll be working with the cloud front. All right, so far good. Any questions? Stop me when you have questions. Then major thing for any computing, right? Storage. All right. All right. So the storage, there's three types of storage. CDO, can you tell me what are the three types of storage?
Mhm.
CDU, CDU Magasa,
It's pronounced Sega.
Sudo Magasa. I'm very sorry, sir.
Hey, say,
Could you answer the question?
what's the question?
You were there? Okay, the question, there's three types of storage. What are they?
Um, single storage,
Mm-hmm.
gateway,
Mm-hmm.
glacier.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you so much. I mean, the answer is wrong. So there's generally three types of storage. Number one is a block storage. Block storage, where you save data as blocks of data, and that's what you have in your hard disk drives and flash drives. Okay, block storage. Take a note of that. The second thing is object storage. Object storage, where you save data as objects. Okay, objects. It could be a photo, it could be a file. It's an object. And the third type is a file storage, like NFS. All right, file storage. Anyways, so AWS provide all the three types of storages. Okay, the first one is S3, which is like object storage. Okay, simple storage surface. S3 offers highly versatile, reliable, and inexpensive object. Okay, storage. So three lines under object storage. That's great for data storage and backups. It's also commonly used as part of the large AWS production process. Okay, object storage. A Glacier is an object storage, but it's for backup. It's a very slow storage. So when you have like data that you need to back up, you don't want to use, and you don't want to spend a lot of money, you send it to Glacier. Okay, so it's a good choice when you need a large data archives. So it's for archives stored cheaply over the long term and can live for relatively delays measuring in hours. So usually, if you put data in the archive, you might need 8 hours to get the data. They are archived, not for daily. All right. Then, so this is an object. These two are object. Then, what we have used in creating EC2s are the elastic block storage. Elastic, it's like your hard disk drive. So the data will be saved and they're like a block, and there is different types. We'll take a look at them. So EBS provides a virtual data drives that host the operating system and working data on EC2 instances. All right, so object, and then we have a block. Then after that, you have the storage gateway, where it's a hybrid storage system that exposes cloud storage as local on premises. So, um, sometimes like you have a big data and you don't want to have a backup system in your on premises, like can you be in the data center, so you bring the data where to the storage to S3, but to access it you're gonna need a storage gateway. Okay, all right, so it's for it could be used for migration of data and backups. All right, and we'll talk a little bit more about storage data. All right, then databases. All right, so you have databases in general speaking. Let me ask Arzu, what are the types of databases in the big picture?
I don't know.
Okay, so
It says here, right? Relational database. And I mean, is that what you're asking?
yes,
Relate.
yes,
I'm teaching a class for database, and now you're asking me this question I can't answer. Are you referring to relational database and Dynamo database?
yeah, that's correct. It's relational. I mean, if you divide the word of database in two, all right. So there is relational database, which is SQL based, and NoSQL
Yes.
based, and or big data, NoSQL based. So database, AWS provide these for you. So you have SQL database, which is a relational database, which all of you took a course in database. And if you took a class in big data, you'll learn about NoSQL. All right, the data is not relational. All right, and okay, so it provide managed services for most of the databases. So AWS provides managed service for Oracle database, for SQL database, for Maria uh, database, for Postgres database, for Microsoft database, and they came up with a new database based on MySQL, which is Aurora. Aurora. Aurora technically or supposedly to be 8 times faster than MySQL. All right. And all of these use SQL. SQL is a language. SQL is a language. All right. And also they have Dynamo database, which is no SQL. It's not a relational database. So again, if the word of database is divided in two parts, relational database, no SQL database. All right. For SQL database, they have six. All right. And for NoSQL, they have Dynamo database. All of these are. So in here, Dynamo database can be used for fast, flexible, highly scalable, and managed non-relational or NoSQL, non-relational or NoSQL